Are there pros or cons of them being loyal and only selling like one brand of equipment?
Can we talk about something less controversial like politics or
Sure.
religion? As a contractor, I was asked not too long ago, what brand of equipment would I select to primarily partner with? And I'll be honest, what I said is whichever brand is giving you the most marketing dollars.
The home services industry is changing, and the business owners who adapt will lead it. We bring contractors and industry leaders together to break down what's actually working: data, operations, and strategies that drive results. This is Beyond the Truck Roll.
Welcome to Beyond the Truck Roll. Today we are covering the state of HVAC supply with an awesome guest, Max Benbrook from WinSupply in Austin. Max, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. How you doing? Thanks for having me on. Thanks for putting on this podcast. Any opportunity to talk about HVAC, I jump at it because just what I don't have any other hobbies, just HVAC. My name is Max. I'm the executive vice president here at WinSupply in Austin. Been here about 2 years, but I've been on the supply side, OEM distribution for a long time. Too long to count. Actually, just made me a little bit depressed too when I thought about the actual number. And it's just a great industry. All my friends are HVAC people. I think I probably cuss too much for my normal civilian friends. So I found a home in the HVAC folk.
Can you tell me a little bit about the history of WinSupply and specifically the branch you work out?
Sure. WinSupply is actually a really interesting business model where each location is owned by a president in conjunction with the corporate office, which is a private equity owned firm that supports each branch location with services such as payroll, accounting, and basically each owner, an owner under each roof is the motto. So it's very decentralized. Each location is able to make decisions, inventory, financial agreements, what model. I mean, there's Win HVAC, there's plumbing, electrical, there's industrial, there's just all sorts of different service entities that WinSupply will support an owner with starting up.
So how many employees do you guys have in the Austin branch?
So in Austin, we have 27 employees. And that includes your normal, warranty, counter, warehouse, sales, tech support. So we're a full stocking, full service distributor.
Do you have like a lot of dealers you work with, or how do you look at that?
We do. So we have a lot of contractor partners or dealers. And so we primarily service the high volume multifamily supplies as well as service, like your normal add-on replacement contractors. The history of this WinSupply is really cemented in high volume supplies. And it's the last 2 years that we really started taking a hard look at adding on, and we're partnered with GE, which came to market, roughly, I don't know, I want to say about 5 years ago with a unitary offering. We've been working with them for about 2 years and very happy, very good product, very good support. They listen to all of our ideas, so it's a very collaborative partnership. So it's something we're very happy with.
The first thing I want to just kind of talk about with you today is the state of HVAC supply. You have I think you can provide a really good and interesting voice for people to listen to, especially because you're on this side of it. So my first question today for you would be, how would you describe the HVAC supply environment right now?
The same as it always was, and completely different at the same time. HVAC is undergoing a lot of changes, both legislatively with the from 2019 FER, and then you had the static pressure change, and then you had the new refrigerant. I mean, it's just constantly ongoing. And so then you had, in the middle of that, you had the whole supply chain disruption with COVID. And so you saw a lot of behaviors change during that time period. And it's kind of funny to reflect on that because there was such a scarcity mindset. You had a lot of people, a lot of contractors, inventorying products, which is a pretty big departure for the majority of HVAC contractors. They rely on their supplier, their distributor, what have you. and they all, everyone that I talked to was a little bit, we're frustrated with the quick on-demand change of having to inventory products. However, in throughout those conversations, I was interested in if contractors would see the benefit. In large in part, they all saw the benefit of stocking and you know having that conversation out a little further. Are you going to, once the supply chain corrects itself, are you going to continue to stock? And I think almost overwhelmingly all the contractors were, yes, I'm going to stock. Now we're a couple years removed from that. Not one of them is stocking equipment, which is fine. We're still able to support contractors who are just relying on that just in time. It does cause some change. It should cause some behavioral changes within the distributor or within their distributor partner. Identifying what they're going to sell, because OEMs love proliferating equipment, which is awesome because a lot of good stuff comes out of that. However, managing all those lines of inventory becomes somewhat of a challenge, especially when a contractor will make a change and say, hey, I was selling this, but now I want to sell this for whatever reason without notifying their supplier. That leads to some fulfillment issues, or can lead to some fulfillment issues. And so that's something to watch, something we watch.
Follow-up question from the COVID chaos, I think is what you're kind of getting at. What is recovered or stabilized since then, and what's still kind of an issue?
I would say supply overall is very much stabilized. All the at least from where I sat, it wasn't an issue with shipping equipment, although there was an increased emphasis on that final mile transportation. Once it hits a dock in the country, getting it on a semi truck wasn't an issue. Finding a driver to drive that truck, that was an issue, and that still is a variable to some degree. So in that part, it's pretty stable. Where we're seeing some supply chain disruption, and it's not really supply chain disruption. So let me take a step back. It's more pricing volatility with the news of tariffs, with the news of rare earth minerals. I mean, not to make it political, but that certainly has an effect on not only the supply chain and the commodities prices, because at the end of the day, we're commodities brokers. I mean, we're selling steel, aluminum, copper. And so having some of that, that volatility in the media does create some issues for manufacturers. You start to get other governments involved, and it does become, it does add to some pricing fluctuation. Just check your price of silver, or your silver solder, and you can kind of see what's happening. Just the conversation I had just before coming in here. So large in part, that's a little bit of it. The other issue, because it's all interconnected, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. You have what's causing, and I don't want to call it a disruption, but what's forcing some growth is AI and how to implement AI into your business. And so tremendously powerful tools, tremendously, you can get some really, really good information. And so we're waiting to see we're not actually waiting, but we're interested in seeing that. And so we educated WinSupply here in Austin in November, held a summit introducing the topic of AI in an HVAC related context. And the demand from that was so popular that we're actually hosting another one April 3rd. We're calling it AI Live. And that one is going to be a workshop focused on helping dealers actually build out processes for their company using AI real time. So whether that be price book, whether that be tracking leads in their company, which there's technology to do that, whether it's job descriptions, things that used to take some time are now, you're able to reduce that, increasing productivity at a very, very increased rate. So it's a lot of cool stuff. So you have all these things kind of happening simultaneously. Oh, and by the way, the demographic of consumers is skewing much younger now. I think millennials are probably, if they're not one, they're a close second behind boomers as far as buying HVAC equipment. And so the guys that are in the field, how to talk to and how to sell and how to identify the needs of that consumer because the buying pattern and their behavior has changed quite a bit from, from what it was before. All these things thrown into a snow globe and shaken, and that's the clarity of the HVAC industry at the moment.
What is the distributor's role in
Hmm.
training and ongoing support to the contractor? I mean, you're talking a lot about the AI changes, and I was at the summit in November, and I'm just curious, like, what's the ongoing role for distribution to train contractors?
Well, great question. That's a phenomenal question because what the AI, you know, at a bare minimum, a distributor has to provide technical support, has to provide, some sort of ecom, has to provide, that training, has to be able to deploy TSA to a job site just for, at a fairly quick process or fairly quick response time. And so all that stuff was already, no ideas or opinions got changed about that. But what our November AI summit showed us was contractors are heavily relying on distribution, and the expectations of the services and the education expected from distribution has certainly increased over the years. So, things before that we were, it was just, hey, I'm getting product from point A to point B. I'm, letting you know about changes. Now the conversations now are, hey, what segment should I deploy my co-op dollars? Or, hey, can you help train my salespeople on, on communication and soft skills and how to be effective salespeople in the home. So contractors are looking for solutions, and there's a wonderful opportunity for distributors who realize that and step into that to be able to support their contractor partners. And that's been really, growing this as much as we've grown it, or the AOR side over the past 2 years. That's been a key focus of ours. What's the technology? What financing products are really popular? How, just the ease of doing business. I mean, even assisting contractors down to unifying. So if they have multiple service trucks, standardizing the inventory they keep on that service truck. I mean, just little things all across the board. So it's almost, it's not enough to tell them, hey, this is the best practice. This is what the best of the best contractors do. Now it's, the opportunity is to assist them in implementing those aspects. So it's not enough for distributors to educate. Now the opportunity is to help implement those into their business. And it's exciting. I think it's awesome. I mean, those who are up to the task, I think would probably say the same thing. Those who are not so up to the task probably resent it a little bit. But you're building relationships and you're building this rapport.
Yeah,
and they become
true partnership.
Yeah, and
right.
That's how the distributor contractor relationship really, expands and blossoms exponentially, was when you do have that partnership.
Do you think so? We're talking a little bit about the ongoing education and how a lot of these contractors have looked at the distributor for guidance. Do you think this is because maybe their vendor partners aren't doing it? Like why do you think they're coming to the distributor? Is it because you're doing technical training? Like what's happening here?
Well, you know, being a contractor, I think it's an unmet need, and there certainly are other organizations that offer services that can do things much better, who are much more educated in some of the things that we're working through. But it's another, I don't want to say tax on the contractor, but you have all these added expenses. I mean, you have the FSM, which wasn't around a few years ago. You have an increased rate of financing, which those discount rates weren't, you weren't being when financing. I know people are going to say, oh, you should always be offered financing, but we've really seen not a resurgence, but a surge in financing over the past call it, 5 to 8 years. I mean, people financing 30, 40, 50% of the revenue. I mean, that's a substantial growth, a substantial increase in financing. So plus we're already talking pretty much on a regular basis, if not daily, definitely multiple times a week. So there's already a built-in rapport, and not all vendors are, not all solution providers are created equal. So, rather than having to go through that process of building rapport, building trust, they can lean on, they should be able to lean on and at least have a conversation with the distributor. And it's just a very difficult way to run a bit. Contracting is a very difficult business to run. It's incredibly, you're part logistics company with your trucks, you're part, retail, you're very much retail oriented. And then you have, custom construction areas every single install. So now add in the complexity, all the other additional business complexities. It's they're receptive to help. I'll say that.
So, and then shifting the conversation a bit, from your perspective out on the supply side, what do you see some contractors do better than others, and why they, in your opinion, are growing quicker and stuff like that? I'm sure that's a fairly loaded question, but would love your thoughts.
So let's just focus on kind of a mid-size, because we can, that contractor. I mean, there's multiple archetype of contractors. So let's take just a regular mid-sized guy. Maybe he's running 3 trucks. I think the one of the biggest things at a very basic level is knowing what you do and knowing that you can't do everything. So as I'm having conversations, one of the things that stands out is when I ask, hey, what segments do you work in? And someone who says we do everything, it's a little bit of a red flag for me. I'll be honest with you. The guy who says he can do commercial, multifamily, service, replacement, those are all very, very difficult. And even specializing in one of them takes time to gain authority, and takes time to get really good at running. So by focusing on all of them, the whole jack of trades, master of none. So understanding what scope of work you want to get into, and just living there. So I noticed the bigger the contractor, the more narrow scope of work they get. So you get a guy who does, 100, who's got 100, 100 people work for their company. They're probably going to do, they're probably only going to focus, on one thing, the thing that got them to that size. Maybe you add on an ancillary service here or there, but large in part, the majority of revenue is going to come from one segment.
I would think it'd be like the opposite. The bigger you are, the more services that you add on.
You're able to departmentalize because you have, discretionary profit that you can reinvest into the company, into that different segment. However, a lot of these guys, it takes time. So the principal is probably a little bit older, and he's probably stubbed his toe a couple of times. So he knows better, knows like, hey, I'm a new construction guy. I don't do, commercial plan and spec all that well. I probably shouldn't do that. That's not in my wheelhouse. I mean, stuff like that, it's the guy who chases the applied, who chases multifamily, who chases commercial, who chases new construction, that guy it's tough to be successful in one of those, and to dip your toe into all of them permanently, keeping your toe permanently dipped without one of those segments really coming, bubbling up to the forefront. It's a tough road. It's a long process.
And then I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but WinSupply distributor for quite a few different manufacturers, right?
I mean, from a supply side, you have to have partnerships with multiple vendors. From an equipment side, we work with, really, call it 2.5. So we sell GE for our unitary, because GE is still developing their 3-phase offering. We've partnered with Champion, which is York brand, and then for our ancillary mobile home product and our stud mount and fur down product, we use ADP.
So then from a contractor side, like are there pros or cons of them just being loyal and only selling like one brand of equipment, or is it best for them to offer multiple? Yeah, just curious on your thoughts there.
Okay. Can we talk about something less controversial like politics or
Sure.
religion? So
And we don't have to talk about this.
no, I think this is a great topic. I think you have to, as a contractor. So after doing this for a long time, I was asked not too long ago, what brand of equipment would I select to primarily partner with? And I'll be honest, what I said is whichever brand is giving you the most marketing dollars. Because at the end of the day, there's a marketing component to this industry and to this job, specifically for add-on replacement and service add-on replacement. Specifically for that segment, it becomes the marketing component is very large. And then the customer service and the customer journey is also another humongous part of that as well. Is there a brand with partnering? So historically, when I started out in my career, it was we're going to do two brands, we're going to split it up 60-40, 50-50, whatever, and it's two people, it's I'm going to play one off the other. That's one philosophy. And then a little bit later in my career, I saw I'm going to go exclusive, and exclusive is 80% because there's not one OEM that can cover all the demands from all the mechanical needs of a market. So we'll call it 80% is, and for purposes of this conversation, we'll just say that's 100% exclusive, right? A lot of contractors evolve to say, I'm going to give all my products or the majority of my purchases to one brand. That way I have one throat to choke is the joke there. And so really, regardless, whatever your approach, I think it just needs to be clear. I see the pros and cons of either one. Or the one behavior that is a little bit challenging to confront with the contractor is when homeowner says, I want a price on three different brands and they're all kind of do the same thing. And the contractors, there's a group of contractors that think if I give the homeowner the brand that they asked for, that's going to help my chances with converting this lead into a sale. I see that. I understand the thought process. Have I seen evidence to suggest that that is accurate? I have not. Homeowners don't have an understanding. They don't understand air conditioning. They don't understand the history of it. They don't really understand what it does. They don't, so what I often, when I have friends that ask me, hey, who makes the best brand of air conditioner? I was like, wrong question, really, because what you're buying is you're buying the install. Mm-hmm. Air conditioning equipment, large in part, there's a similarity between the brands. I mean, you look at an OEM and you're like, wow, that's a big engineering driven company, and that's true. However, there is a component where you do have to take cost and profit into your business model. So that emphasis on cost competitiveness into the market is taken into account when they're selecting the components. And so it's that same economic force that has driven the assimilation of interior components. I mean, there's only 3 motor manufacturers. I mean, couple, 4 or 5 cap manufacturers, 2 TXV manufacturers. I mean, I see compressors that are mainly, Copeland and LG. So a couple, compressor manufacturers for the most part. So the other thing I look at is that, I've seen Infinity systems fail in a year, and I've seen Janitrol systems last for 40. So is that to say one piece of equipment is manufactured better than the other? I would say no, arguably. But was one installed better than the other? Absolutely. And that's all. At the end of the day, that's what the homeowner is buying. But
yeah,
how do you tell a homeowner that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that from the homeowner psychology, I don't think I think the only time maybe they would have a huge preference on one brand or the other is if they have one piece of equipment that just like did not fit their expectations. I would think they're like, oh, I don't want that another newer version of that equipment in my home now from one of these brands. But I think you're right from the homeowner perspective. I think it's more about how they trust and build trust with the contractor and how the contractor is communicating.
I mean, I would agree with that. I would, and at the end of the day, HVAC is very technical. I know some consider it low tech, and there is that notion. But when you take a look at the entire system, supply return, the duct work, you know, what you're what you're installing, what the expectations of the equipment is from the homeowner. I mean, homeowners aren't always. Sometimes they're their own worst enemy. Um, you have a professional, and this might not come across right, but you have a professional looking company that comes out at the time they said they were going to come out. They put the booties or the floor protectors on, the floor savers on. Um, clean. They walk through the whole thing. They come up with a proposal, and then they have a guy who shows up late. The magnet's crooked on the side of the truck. He comes in, kind of eyeballs it. Throws him a bid on a napkin, and it's less than the professional company's truck. I'm not saying looks are everything, but you know that guy's a few bucks cheaper. Who are the majority of homeowners going to go with? And that's where it's like it's a tough.
Yeah.
It's not fair and equitable at any at any level.
Well,
But
I think I think that's why you were talking a bit about like financing. I think why those type of things have just really become really strong in the industry is because at the end of the day, they can be seen as a sales tool, like convert more of the business because we're offering financing, which is a bit easier than a homeowner getting a quote for like $15,000 up front. Now they can finance it. So I don't know if that company that shows up with the license plate half falling down is quite honestly offering the same type of benefits like financing. Maybe they are, but
majority of the time, I would say probably not. But yeah, there's some, and like I said, you can't judge a book by its cover.
mhm.
Really, in that situation, how is a homeowner, okay, great, you spent some time researching air conditioning, and I've spent 20 years in the industry, and I'm learning, I learned something new this morning. So I think it's a tall task to expect, it's a tall task to expect the homeowners to make the right decision every time. Um, you know, Honestly, I mean, I have some sort of awareness and understanding of construction, and I'll be honest with you, I've selected contractors that I wish I wouldn't have worked with when it's all said and done. So I don't, you know, because I'm a, because I consider myself somewhat of an expert in air conditioning, makes me realize how little I know about everything else. So, really, what change and that change or that awareness has changed the way I have those discussions with. I'll give you an example for the vet. I go to a vet, you know, the options are, they're giving me what I would recognize as a good, better, best option.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, I don't know. I came to you. My dog is sick. Like, make my dog better.
Yeah.
Just tell me what to do at that point, because I didn't spend, 8 years in veterinary school. I was slinging HVAC. You guys tell me. I don't know. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's a little bit of that, and I understand the price, the price consideration in that. Um, and so there's some great information that a homeowner could get from an HVC salesperson, you know, if they just kind of maybe trusted that person a little bit, and then open them up, be open to the fact to asking questions. And if you don't like the answers you're getting, or they seem off, they, call another company. But,
Yeah.
Some of the behavior, getting 6 to 8 to 10 bids, I mean, that seems a
So
little bit
it's
extreme.
overkill. Yeah.
Seems
I,
extreme to me. Yeah.
I do think that at times, and we see, because we focus at Smart AC on like the customer loyalty and the lifetime value, and how do you go from the day one visit to like a longer term customer. And one of the biggest issues we see is homeowners oftentimes will stop working with an HVAC contractor because they feel like they're being oversold to, right? Like that's there is that barrier of like, we should trust them, but B, if they're in the home all like for their annual tune up and they're always selling them something, that there's like a kind of a chicken and an egg situation there. Like overdoing it can create some distrust. And it's interesting because like we saw this early on with in our app. You can order filters, and we do them like cheaper than Amazon, because the psychology of the homeowner, if they see that their HVAC company's app is offering them filters that are more expensive than what they can get on Amazon, that creates like distrust. There's like small things that go and play into the retention. So that's why we offer these filters at cheaper than Amazon prices, et cetera. And so like there's such a psychology there, I think.
I agree. I think there is too. And I empathize with the homeowners, because, there's, a lot of it is just, difference in just, I don't think are they seeing substantial differences? I mean, I would imagine that you guys are pretty close to what Amazon being the
Yeah,
price.
we're pretty close. I think there's just like a small psychology of, if the homeowner sees a better price elsewhere, they're going to start thinking their contractor is ripping them off. And so it's like these small things that really certain types of homeowners will not care, but certain types will. The types that are going out and getting several different quotes for something, like it's these small things that people look for. And now there's so many options. You just have like, yeah, just all you have to do is Google someone else. And usually in big cities, like there are so many options. So um, it's really these small things.
It is. It is. It's just there's so many options. That's why it comes down to marketing. I mean, you really
Yeah.
gotta make the phone ring. I mean, I'd be curious about some of the attrition rates on the attrition. Smart AC makes sense to me, and I find it really appealing, because you can choose to have someone come out to your home, but or you can choose, hey, does this warrant? You have a contact who has visibility into what your system's doing. The question then becomes, hey, Mr. Mr. Contractor, is this a critical fault, or is this something you need to come out, or is this something I can suck the power off, or, you can get it on the next visit. So I like that, that option for a homeowner is pretty nice.
Well, and also it's just about creating the right. You talked very early on about knowing what you do best from a contractor side. So like getting hyper focused on things that you do best. I think from just like a retention side, it's kind of the same thing in a way, but it's instead knowing your customers. So I think it's just about offering them plans on maintenance agreements where it is, hey, some homeowners don't want you in the home all the time. Some are open to having you in the home all the time. And it's just, how do you create a few different options for them so that each type of customer you work with has a better relationship with you for the long run and is willing to call you when something breaks? Because that's really why these programs exist, is you want to make sure you get that big ticket job.
Sure. And I, that's why I think it's a great, I love, I mean, the Smart AC product is awesome. I think it's just a really, really smart way of engaging with the homeowner. So it's unique value, not only for the contractor, obviously staying connected, but very much so with the homeowner, giving them, hopefully the opportunity to build trust and rapport with their chosen contractor. So it's a cool product.
Well, we appreciate that. I think in the last few minutes, I want to ask you a little bit about what you think is coming in the industry over the next year, 2 years or so. My first question for you is, what trends should HVAC owners be paying attention to heading into 2026?
There's a lot of cool stuff. I think there's a lot of cool stuff coming. I think, like smart AC. That's why I'm actually want to ask you what do you guys got cooking in the laboratory over there? Because I'm sure it's neat. Because I'm sure, you know, the opportunity to empower a contractor for one to identify, predictive failures and deploy intelligent labor the with that um, with that part or replacement part with a high degree of accuracy. I would jump over backwards if I was a business owner or an HVAC contractor. I would be very, very excited about that because one, efficiency is here. Driving efficient operational behavior and practices. It's called, the truck roll moniker is interesting because yeah, I think warranty is going to change the way warranties are done because that is a friction point in the whole channel. So I'm a homeowner. I call, a guy comes out, says, "Oh, it's this OEM motor, and there's nothing, it's a constant torque motor. There's nothing really proprietary about it." For the contractor to have to identify the failure, leave the homeowner, come back, go to the supply house or get it on order to come back to fix it would be a really frustrating process for me as a homeowner.
Yeah.
All these understanding things that I'm saying, I don't want to mislead you because at the end of the day, I'm still a spoiled brat homeowner. Like I still want to fix and I want to fix now. So
Yeah.
One part understands, the other part I'm completely irrational about it.
Well, I think you understand because you're in the industry and you see the other side of it, but most people don't. So they're going to be that homeowner that gets really annoyed, and I think that's understandable.
I think with we're anybody who watches this who has an HVAC shop, I'm sure is feeling the labor shortage in some form or fashion. With these high price and the high dollar of you know college, the ROI is getting tougher and tougher to achieve, and I kind of see trades becoming cool. I see working with your hands being cool, and so people are kind of getting into it. Younger people are choosing it as a viable career, which is funny because it's always been a viable career. I don't,
Yeah.
it's it's weird. It's weird to me because I see a lot of people. I live in a white collar neighborhood, and there's just certain simple mechanical things that these guys can't do. These white collar guys, and I'm like, it's no big deal, but being somewhat handy feels good. I'm not gonna lie. Being able to fix something, being able to teach my son and my daughter how to use tools, like is cool. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something. So I see maybe some potential alleviation um, on that front, and just the equipment is doing some of the evolutions in equipment and performance is really cool. Um, you know, Inverter units that are modulating based on some sort of logarithm, making some sort of algorithm that's ambient air plus the return suction pressure and being able to modulate modulate to a perfect capacity. I think that's really neat. um I don't know, it's just as technology evolves, um it's leading to cooler and cooler enhancements in the actual equipment. So
Yeah.
I see that. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon.
Yeah. Well, I certainly agree with you. And I know we're basically out of time here. So I wanted to just Thank you, Max, for coming on. I think we ought to have you on again because there's so much that we could talk about, but really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And how do people either in the Texas or Austin area find out more about working with WinSupply?
WinSupply, I mean, it's winsupply.com. We're right near the airport in Austin. So just Google us. We're right here. So it's, we're pretty visible.
Awesome. And then how do people find out about this April event that you mentioned?
So again, website, we've posted on it. We have full-blown marketing campaigns. Check out our, WinSupply, ATX is our Facebook page. We have all the information posted there as well.
Amazing.
So I appreciate it, Wes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, and until next time.
All right, let's do it again.